Hi everybody, Golden Era Bookworm here, and today I'd like to return to a review of magazines. In this case, we're looking at Your Physique, February 1948, with a relatively unknown bodybuilder. He hasn't really been mentioned or I guess well known like Clarence Ross and Steve Reeves, George Eiferman back in the day, but Alan Pavio was quite popular, you could say, back in the day, but I guess he's not very well remembered. It's a great photo of him with his nice flaring lats, thick arms, and well-defined legs. On the cover of the magazine, we can see a story of Charles Rigoulot, the man of iron, and he's got a very interesting story that I'd like to get into once I read more about it. But it was a fairly interesting magazine with some great photos, so I'll just quickly go through it. I do like continuing the historic side of this channel, and this is why I continue doing these reviews of these magazines, as well as bring you routines as I've been doing. So looking through the magazine, there are some really interesting stories here by David Willoughby, part 6 of arm development. And I mean, this one guy here, shown in this picture, is shown chinning on an overhead rafter using a pinch grip. That's amazing. That is incredible. So besides arm development, these this article in particular by David Willoughby that has been going on for six issues now, mainly goes on to talk about the size of typical arm development back in the day, which was 16 to 18 inches, and all the things they could do with their arms. It's interesting. Now, going through the magazine, the first particular interesting article I found was improving your leg definition and shape. Now, a lot of the exercises shown here are now performed using cables and other various apparatuses. But back in the day, only the iron boot was used. I've got an actual original Wader iron boot from the 40s or 50s, and they weighed quite a bit. And so back then, to do things like side raises, leg curls, even leg extensions, these were done mostly standing and in other lying down positions, as you can see in the images. And the iron boot was used by many of the bodybuilders back then in the day. Now, of course, we have cables. But it's interesting to look back at that kind of training. Now, the article on Charles Rigoulot was rather fantastic, actually. Here is a very important figure in that he's actually considered a very important figure because he kind of bridged the period between the legendary, glamorous, and very entertaining strongmen of the past, like Sandow, Saxon, Sir, Hackenschmidt. That era was well known. So the late 1800s to the early 1900s was well known for the strongman act. And then suddenly in the 20s and 30s you had the rise of Olympic weightlifting. Right, and that went all the way to the 40s until bodybuilding evolved from that. And in between you had this one character, Charles Rigoulot. You can see he's rather hugely built if I zoom in. And that was mainly due to his, not just his strongman and strength acts, but he had this, he was actually very famous for becoming a weightlifter, right? So he wasn't necessarily famous for his classic physique. You can see he's really rugged, thick built, right? He wasn't known for many of his strength acts, actually, although he was a strong man. He wasn't even known for his stage presence, but he was really well known for breaking one record after another of weightlifting. And he was actually born in France, in Paris, and by 20 years of age he already held the lightweight championship by winning in the Olympic Games. I don't know the full story because this particular magazine is incomplete, and so I don't get to read all of it, but it is a very fascinating read into the character of Charles Rigoulot and how, I guess, he was the kind of athlete that was a transition between strongmanism and Olympic weightlifting, which then went on to become bodybuilding later, or which bodybuilding evolved from. The final article that I found rather interesting was Canada's Most Perfect Physique contest and Most Muscular Man. And the reason why I found this interesting was because this is supposed to be the International Federation of Bodybuilders, that is the IFBB, their very first show. This is the very first ever contest staged. The very first ever contest staged by the IFBB. It was a 2.5-hour show, which obviously sported displays of muscle control, gymnastic stunts, weightlifting, strength acts, and the special attraction, posing by the one and only Mr. America, Steve Reeves, shown there, shaking the hand of Ben Wader. There he is, looking mighty, Steve Reeves. He was the special act on that particular night, and according to Steve, he actually says that, in his own words, quote unquote, "This show surpassed anything I have ever seen. If the best developed physique of Canada contest is just a sample of what the IFBB has in store for the general public, there is little doubt that the interest held in physical culture will exceed all bounds." That came from Steve Reeves himself. So he was really supporting, I guess, the IFBB after attending and presenting himself in the competition, and obviously being the major attraction. The show was won by Geoffrey Lehuere, or whatever, however you say his, Geoffrey Lehuere. I don't know. you help me. And he won the competition, shown here. I can't even say his name. I don't speak French. Geoffrey Lehuere, I think it says. But anyway, yeah, that's basically all I found interesting article-wise in this particular magazine. I hope you've enjoyed the video. I won't make it any longer. If you did, please give it a thumbs up. Let me know what you think. Leave me your comments. Thanks for watching. Subscribe if you haven't. I'll be coming up with more videos on Clancy Ross's routines, and starting a very new exciting segment that I'm sure all of you will enjoy. This is the Golden Era Bookworm. Bye for now.